kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts, gon' get your kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts, gon' get your kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts, gon' get your kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts.
What's going on, friends? I go by the name of Enoch, and I have with me here two legendary gentlemen. I mean, we're talking about legends. Only rival legends like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. Duos like Method Man and Redman. I mean, just absolute legendary.
Rob has never heard of Redman. He's never heard a Redman song in his life.
How did you know that?
There's no way Rob knows who Redman is. You can maybe Method Man he might have heard of.
Maybe Method Man. Wu-Tang. So yeah, we're going to talk about you guys. I really just want to get down to the as the great Nacho Libre would say, down to the nitty gritty and get down to your about you guys. So I want to start off first with Rob, and we just let's go way back. All right. First of all, tell us what year you were born.
88.
88. Okay, so you're still an 80s baby. Were you like a rambunctious child? Were you like a calm? Well, do you have siblings too?
I have one younger sibling. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what kind of child were you?
Basically similar to what I am now. Pretty calm, even keeled. I from a young age though, like to correct people whenever they were wrong. So about the age of 3, I started correcting my mother and haven't stopped since.
Well, actually, were you one of those kids?
Oh yeah.
His catchphrase. Well, actually.
So, what about you, Anthony? What year were you born?
I'm 82, man.
Damn. Okay.
82.
So, and what do you have siblings?
I have four brothers and 4 sisters. I'm one of 9.
Okay. Yeah. 1 of 9. Wonderful. And so you guys, is it like one of those stories where you guys all shared one mattress and one bedroom in like the Bronx?
So I never had my own bedroom my whole life. It was either one or 2 brothers that I would share. Yeah, no. It was either 1 or 2 brothers that I would share with. So I think Rob's on a little delay.
Am I?
Yeah, I think you got a little tiny delay, Rob. It's gonna be like the Tim Gordon interview.
Great.
Yeah, it was wild in my house growing up. So my parents, I'm in the older 4. I'm 3rd. So my parents had 4, and then my mom was using birth control, and then they went on a trip to Medjugorje, and my parents came back never using birth control. My dad was going back to church, and they had 5 kids, one after the other, 5 years in a row. And it was like when I started dating my wife, it was like I would go to her house, and her parents were like, "Oh, is your mom pregnant again?" as a joke, and I'm like, "Yeah, she." And it was just every year, just another kid.
You got to catch up. Yeah, I get it. And so, what kind of kid were you, Anthony? Were you just always messing with your siblings, just annoying everyone?
I think from having 9 kids, 8 siblings, you're always trying to get attention. And even if it's like in a negative way, you just as long as the attention's on you. So I've always just been a little out of my mind trying to get that attention, I think.
Okay. So you were the attention seeker.
Yeah.
And where are you as far as the 9? Are you like in the middle? The oldest,
I'm 3rd.
You're 3rd. Okay. 3rd oldest. Got it. Okay. So let's move on to like just, you're a little bit older. Let's talk Saturday morning cartoons. Were you guys into that? You wake up Saturday morning and go straight to the TV. So, Anthony, what was your go-to cartoon on Saturday morning?
Ninja Turtles, bro.
Oh, that's the first time I heard that answer.
I was a Ninja Turtles kid. Loved the Ninja Turtles. I mean, I think we were talking on one of our shows. You were in the chat. We all watched like Rescue Rangers, DuckTales, that like all those shows too. I watched all the time. But yeah, Saturday morning was Ninja Turtles, man.
Got it. What about you, Rob? What were you watching? He-Man?
Since I'm a little younger, it was more like the Cartoon Network Toonami sort of stuff. So like Dragon Ball Z, Thundercats, some of that sort of stuff.
Okay. Dragon Ball Z was kind of fun. So
how old are you, Enoch?
I was 80. I'm 85. Well, not 85 years old. I was born 85. I'm 37.
85. Yeah, you're my brother
Yeah.
Mikey's age.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm like went between you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So we got the perfect trio here. So did you all play like sports with friends? Now, what was your go-to sport growing up? Playing with friends. Rob, what you play? Did you play any sports at all?
Yeah. So in like high school, it was football. Football was my big one. I did swimming too. But
Okay.
with like friends around the neighborhood, it was mostly like football, stuff like that.
What was your position?
Center.
Oh, nice. Okay. What about you, Anthony? Did you play any sports?
So I played football. I was a halfback, but I was an adrenaline junkie. So
Okay.
I've been snowboarding, wakeboarding, things like that. So me and my friends, even at like 13, we would find like if one of our friends was in the Boy Scouts, we'd get like 8 or 9 of us together and we would go on those Boy Scout trips on the bus, and we would just take a bus up to Vermont, bus up to Maine. And every weekend we would go up snowboarding, and it was like the first bit of freedom we got away from our parents to go and, go and do something on our own. We'd be picking chicks up in random towns.
Yeah. And this was what, when you were about 7, 8 years old?
No, once I was in middle school, like 13, we started doing that,
Got it.
Once the chest hair came in, he could, put that gold chain on. And
I was wearing Cavaricis. I was Cavaricis snowboarding.
All right. So let's move on to like middle school around that time. Were y'all like straight A students, or did you struggle a little bit? Rob, what you got?
I'm definitely a nerd. So for a lot of it, it was straight A's, but at the same time, I had a hard time learning from teachers who I felt in many cases maybe were somewhat less intelligent.
Right.
So I oftentimes didn't pay attention and just did my own thing. But
Okay. What about you, Anthony?
I was an honor roll student right up until they threw me out of school.
Now, was it multiple incidents, or was it something that you did that got you kicked out of school?
Yeah, dude, I was a brawler. I was a brawler, always getting into fights, and then like the final straw was my parents caught me smoking pot, and my dad was making me go for a drug test. And in school, I was drinking one of those big teas, like
right.
You would get like the tea to cleanse your system out. And I was talking about it in front of the teachers, and the teachers were like hearing me overheard us discussing it, and I had to pee so bad because I was drinking this tea all day. So when we went out for recess, I just like went out in the field and I took a leak in the backfield, and the teacher caught me, and that was like the final show. They were like, "Look, you've been in 3 fights, you've been suspended." They were like, "We're just done. Like we don't know what." So they wanted to put me in like a vocational school, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just gonna. And I started working the job I'm in now at like 17.
That's awesome. So let's move on to high school. Did y'all date in high school, or did you guys just stay away from girls? Well, hold on, because Anthony, I don't think you went to high school. Rob, what about you?
I made it to 11th grade.
No, I actually I did not go on a single date until I was 20. Actually.
All right, Okay, so let's talk about the dating scene really quickly. Before I ask you how you met your wife and how you proposed, both of you, is there like a date that y'all went to that was just horrible? You just couldn't wait to get home and drop this chick off. It just didn't go well. Anthony, you got anything like that in the stories?
No, because I've been dating my wife since middle school.
Oh, that's
so
right.
Like me and I mean, on and off. I mean, I went on dates with other girls, but the only girl I ever was like in love with was my wife. So
that's awesome.
I Lindsay license plate. Yeah, I mean, I really I was I don't have any bad dating stories. I mean, I always whatever, but I'm sure Rob's got worse stories than I do, but I don't know.
Okay. Oh, we got some inside information over here, guys. Okay, so
okay, if you really want to hear it, so there was one girl in high school that I hung out with a few times, like outside of school. And at one point, we were sitting in my basement watching. We were going to watch a movie. She brought along a movie. I didn't know what it was at first. Turns out to be The Notebook, which is this is like the year after it comes out. I had never seen it. Didn't really know what it was. So we're sitting there watching the movie, and she's inching closer and closer, and I'm thinking this is a terrible movie. I don't want to be watching this at all. Scooting closer, and the next thing you know, like she's laying her head down on my lap, and I'm thinking, well, this is weird. And then she's like looking up at me, like the big romantic part of the movie. She's looking up at me, like look, and I'm like, yeah, good movie. And that was basically that. It all went right over my head.
This is not Hope.
No, this is not Hope. This is
But Hope
no,
knows
not
this
Hope.
story, and Hope's telling us to ask you about this story.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, thank God.
No,
I thought this was like I thought this was the first time Hope hearing the story. That would have been bad. So I could see Hope's hand and a knife just coming right through the screen at the moment. All right. Let's talk about pop culture. So y'all grew up in the '90s. Anthony, a little bit of the '80s and mostly in the '90s, right? And Rob, you mostly in the '90s. Now, was there like a sitcom or TV shows that you guys went to? In the '90s, or not watch TV a lot?
For us, it was TGI Fridays. It was. So you had. What did you have? You had what was
Home
Urkel.
Improvement, right? Oh yeah.
Urkel. You had the original one that they put the new series out on with Danny Tanner and
Full House.
Full House. Yeah, so you had Full House. You had Urkel. Like that was like the sitcoms. But I mean, I grew up on the Fresh Prince. Fresh Prince is huge.
Yeah.
What else? What were like major shows?
Well, for me, I'll be honest, and this probably won't come like a surprise, but I watched a lot of the History Channel.
This kid.
You watched the History Channel?
Yeah.
I don't know what channel that was in the '90s. I couldn't even tell you what channel the History Channel.
And that was back when it was actually History Channel and not Ancient Aliens 24/7. So,
got it. Did you guys ever watch shows like kind of forgotten shows like Legends of the Hidden Temple or Guts? Remember those like shows?
Guts, yes.
You know what show was sick? You know what show was sick? It was Highlander. Did you ever see Highlander? It was about the immortals, and you can only kill them by beheading them. It was a great show, man. I used to watch that, and then going to bed at night, like in my late teens, I would watch like Cheers, The Honeymooners. I would fall asleep to those shows.
Did you ever watch Frasier? There was a spinoff.
Yeah, I watched all Frasier. Seinfeld. Yeah. I mean, I watched every Seinfeld episode ever.
Right. Okay. Moving on from TV shows, you guys have like a favorite movie or favorite actor, Anthony?
Man, favorite movie. I mean, I would say Braveheart's probably my favorite movie. I was gonna say secular movie.
The Patriot.
Patriot is another gem.
Mel fans here.
So Mel Gibson, perfect.
He's great.
One of the best, absolutely. Yeah. Rob, so Patriot's your favorite?
One of them, yeah.
One of them. Okay. Who would you guys say right now is your favorite Catholic rapper? So just this question.
Wait,
Father Stan Fortuna.
I was just gonna say Father Stan Fortuna, bro. You beat me to it.
Your Godfather, right?
No, listen. There's a funny story about Father Stan because Father Stan, he was with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal in the Bronx, and my father was very close with those guys, and Father Stan would come and make music in my father's garage growing up.
Oh, really?
So I grew up with Father Stan. I was around when he wrote that song, Everybody Gotta Suffer. I was there when he wrote that song.
Lines? Did you give him a few
I mean,
lines?
I didn't have any input.
No, he wrote it about having to hang around Anthony.
Yes. Yeah, so Father Stan was part of my upbringing.
Father Stan is a great, great soul. If you don't mind, I got a quick story about Father Stan. We every year for the parent retreat we have when I was doing youth ministry for First Communion and confirmation students, we had to get a speaker. So it was my turn to get a speaker. So I got Father Stan. I never met him before. So we flew him by. He stayed at my parents' house in San Marcos in San Diego. So It was his time to go. Saturday morning, he was supposed to. I told my wife, I said, I got to go set up the stage. There's about 200 parents. I said, it's get Father Stan at 9 o'clock to St. Mark's as fast as you can. I'm there. It's like 8:45. Nothing. My wife's texting me. He just got out of the bedroom in his pajamas. It's like 9:50. Nothing. I'm like, babe, you got to get him here quickly. The pastors, they're waiting. So my wife peeling through the parking lot. She parks. Father Stan jumps out of the car and he goes, "Sorry, man, your mother's olives kept me." So this whole time he's sitting around eating my mother's homemade olives and made all these parents wait for like 15, 20 minutes.
He's such a big personality, man.
Huge.
Just full of joy. And you gotta understand, like, I know a lot of people say he's corny and stuff. Like, listen, if you knew how many lives he affected in the Bronx, I mean, especially when he was a lot younger, you got to remember, he was coming into rap, like when rap was still very young. Like it wasn't, right. He's coming in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, it was still like hip hop, hippie, you know what I mean? That was
DMC.
That was the rap scene back then. And he's taking these kids off the street who these had no fathers, I mean, these kids would have been gangbangers, and he pulled these kids out, and he really changed a lot of life. So between him and my father's friend Joe Campo, they had a young men's thing where they actually transformed these kids' lives. They would take them out to farms on Long Island and upstate and teach these kids work ethic, and they would go on to lead productive lives. It's not, you can take the corniness aside, and you have to understand that these are kids that their lives are gonna fall apart if these guys didn't intervene for them,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the kind of person he was. And yeah, you're right. There would be no Catholic rap if it wasn't for Father Stan. He's the pioneer. He's the one who really got everything going. So yeah, I'm grateful for him. Let's move on to your wives really quickly. Rob, where did you meet your wife? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You and your wife share a great devotion to Doctor Who, correct? Is that how you guys met?
You are correct, yes, sir.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
I love that you did research for this episode.
Heard it from the grapevine.
Yeah, so I'd been away from home for about 8 years between college and a couple years after college, and I just moved back to kind of my hometown. But I hadn't stayed in touch with a lot of my, old high school friends and stuff. So I get back to my hometown and I'm kind of just looking for people to hang out with and stuff. So I posted something online, basically looking for, someone to watch the new seasons of Doctor Who with, because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. And yes, Joe, it's about a magic phone booth. But anyways, the first and only person to respond was my now current wife, saying, "Pick me, pick me, pick me," literally. Yeah.
Wait, this is how you met her?
Yeah, and I wasn't even looking for it. It wasn't to find someone to date or anything. It was just looking for someone to hang out with, after work, basically.
So this is before, the dating apps and stuff like that. So what, you guys worked at the same place?
It wasn't before. No, it was. I mean, Tinder and stuff existed. This was
it's like a horror movie.
She did no, it was the time of Tinder and stuff, but it wasn't a dating app or anything like that.
So, tell me, what was your proposal? Walk us through the whole proposal. What did you do?
So, because we both love Doctor Who and that's how we met, I ordered a custom-made ring. No, I ordered a custom-made ring box on Etsy for, with Doctor Who themed. And then I took her out to one of her favorite places, which was a kind of like a hobby farm county park sort of thing.
Okay.
That was outside of the Twin Cities. So we drove there and we're walking around. And when we get there, I think I asked her, what is your absolute favorite spot here? So we walked in. It's about a 20-minute walk, and we go under this oak tree. And she's like, I think right under this oak tree is my favorite spot. And that's when I kneeled down and opened the custom ring box and showed her the ring, and popped the question, and she says yes. And she takes the ring and goes to put it on, and it's not fitting, and I'm freaking out. But it's because she's putting it on the wrong finger.
And that's how you knew she was a keeper.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Anthony, go through your proposal. I mean, you knew your wife since
All right, so
since the last time you were in school, which was
my wife and I, when we were 13, basically, she had a huge crush on me, but she had braces, and I was like, when you get the braces off, maybe.
No. What did you actually say?
I said,
say it for real. Come on.
When you get those braces off, you're gonna be so hot. And she was. She was so hot when she got those braces off. Now, the rest of this story, she's going to kill me when I tell the rest of this story, because this is pre-conversion days, and my wife and I were not we were not living the way we should have been. This is before, so my wife was Lutheran, I was Catholic. We weren't taking our faith seriously at all. We were together since we were teenagers, and she got pregnant. So we wound up going. So this is crazy. All right, this I don't think I've ever told this.
Is her dad the shotgun type or no?
No. So listen to this story. So my wife, here's what really happens. My brother Mikey's a year and a half younger than me, and he calls me and he says, Aunt, his girlfriend at the time, Emily, is pregnant. Wow. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? He goes, no, why? I said, I think Nicole might be pregnant. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know, man. She's like a week late on her period. I think she might be pregnant. So my wife goes and gets a pregnancy test. My brother and me together have to go and tell my parents that that both of us got our girlfriends pregnant at the same time. Ooh. Okay.
It's either going to make it half as bad for each or twice as bad as each.
Well, Rob, you know me, right? So I go in, I'm like, Mikey, don't worry. I got the talking. Don't worry.
If I were Mikey, I'd be like, no, shut up, Anthony.
My brother Mikey is the best. He's such a quiet guy. He doesn't talk much, So I go in and I'm just like, I go to tell my parents and I'm like, all right, we got some news. We both got to talk. And now my parents have no idea what's coming, And I'm like, listen, Emily and Nicole are both pregnant. My father looks at me and he goes, would you two idiots plan this? He was so he was so mad. He thought we planned it. So then we got to tell my wife's parents. We go to my wife's house, and the whole family is sitting in the den. They're all sitting in the den watching a movie. And me and my wife walk in, and I grab the remote, and they got a new TV. They got a brand new TV. It was the first day they were watching. And I walk in and I go, oh, is this the new remote? They go, yeah. I turn the TV off. I go, we got to talk. The whole family's sitting there, and I go, it looks like me and Nicole are getting married a little sooner than we thought, guys. And her sister just goes, oh my God, and runs out of the room. But listen, now we're dating for so long. Her parents adored me. We were already talking about getting married and stuff. Right. So her mom just looks at me and she goes, oh, we're planning a wedding. And her dad was just like, not happening,
Not happening. Her dad was like, "Did your two of us plan this?"
So then we told them about my brother being pregnant. But so her engagement, her proposal wasn't much of a surprise. But she should have kept the braces on. Dude, Rick Barrett is so funny, man.
Rick's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, he is so funny. But yeah, so there wasn't much of a surprise to the engagement. I wound up getting her ring, but she knew it was coming, and it wasn't much excitement to that portion. But this whole leading up to it was fun.
Okay. So how did you? Was it not a formal proposal? Was it just casual?
I still got on one knee, and it was but it was so much excitement going on at the time. It was just the ring was so secondary. It was we were planning and now we planned the wedding in 2 months, and we planned a beautiful wedding because we wanted to be married before we had the baby. We didn't want to wait till after. And the thing is, like, a lot of people today, like, you get your girlfriend pregnant and you don't actually marry her. You know what I mean? And it was like, and the thing is, my parents and her parents both knew, like, we were talking about getting married anyway. Like, so there was no surprise there. It wasn't like I was only marrying her because of this. We should have been living properly, and we weren't. And but this whole scenario is what led to my conversion and her she was Lutheran, but I had to get a dispensation from the bishop for her she had to agree to raise the children Catholic. And about like 3 years after our wedding, she joined RCIA, and then she had a conversion too, and she came into the church. It was really like, you just see God's hand in all of it. It was just,
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So now we know how. So how did you find out, Anthony? Rob, how did you find out that you and Hope were first expecting? Was it? Did she tell you? Was it a surprise? Did she plan anything, or did you pee on a stick too? What happened?
In solidarity, both of us. You're right.
Yours was positive, hers was negative. I get it. Okay.
I don't. I hate that she's literally listening to this.
That's the joy of when your wife doesn't watch anything you do. You can say anything you want on here.
That's so true.
I don't remember it being anything.
Okay.
No big surprise or anything.
He just looks over. Let's talk about like wants. Like, okay, so I know for a fact.
Covered like a baby.
I know for a fact now. So Rob, I'll ask you this question in a second because I know big purchases. Now I know for a fact Anthony loves boats. He loves to purchase boats that are about $5,000 or $6,000 that have a horrible engine.
Oh my God! You talked to my cousin. Holy cow! Yo, he did some research too.
Because the story I got is Anthony paid between $6,000 to $8,000 for a boat that was broken. Engine seized at first when he first put it in the water. The thing was unsalvageable. So
multiple times. This is not. Listen to me. Man, I've always just been in love with the water. My first boat was all right. So my first boat was a little jet boat. I got 3 years out of it. But then, yeah, my cousin's right. I went and bought a boat. Literally, like, the day I put it in the water, the engine seized on me, and I was out $8,000. And I was losing my mind. I'm like, you have to be kidding me! I spent another like $1,500 trying to get that thing going again. My whole boat experience has not been a very prudent one. Let's put it that way.
That's hysterical. Rob, I got a question for you. True or false, Rob? Let's do some true or false.
Oh.
So Rob, in college, while you were rushing to your rugby practice,
true.
You let me finish. You accidentally put your foot through the front door glass. And then when the coach noticed how much it was bleeding, he asked you and your friend to go to the hospital, and you guys got lost. Correct? True? False?
Mostly true. We never made it to the point where there was a coach. We were running late, so we run down the stairs, and I go to kick the door open because I got my whole kit on my hand, basically my shorts, my jersey, my cleats, everything in my arms. So I leaned back to kick the door bar, the handle, right, to throw the door open, and I'm about 6 inches too low, and the whole door is glass, and put my whole leg right through the door. And of course, me and my roommate look at each other like, oh, someone had to have heard that. So we start running to get to the gym so no one realizes what I had just done. And as we get there, I'm like, I must have ran in a puddle. My foot's soaking wet.
Soaked in blood.
So, yes, I looked down, and my whole leg is just like spurting blood. My foot is soaked. My shoe's soaked in blood. So we have to run then back to my roommate's car. to drive to the nearest emergency room, which should have been about a 10-minute drive. 30 minutes later, we realized he took the wrong turn. So we turned around and started heading back. Was feeling a little faint by the time we got there, but
sure, you guys like the Israelites walking around the desert for 40 years. So
Oh man,
the promised land of milk and honey. So let's move forward to like, so I don't know. I grew up playing video games. I don't know about you guys. Madden, NBA 2K. I played all those video games. Were you, Anthony, were you a video game guy or?
Bro, my video game playing ended with finding the secret flute in Mario 3. Like that's where my video games.
How did you just pronounce that?
You find the secret
Mario
flute.
3?
Super Mario 3. What do you mean? What do you call it? Mario?
Mario, yeah.
Super Mario. Stop it. You know how many guys I know named Mario? You're going to tell me his name's Mario? I work with 6 Marios. Don't tell me how to pronounce Mario.
Super Mario 3. Okay, and that was probably the last time you were in school, right? So in the middle school.
I probably played a few Sega games mixed. I liked Sonic, but no, nothing. Like once like PS3 came out, that was way out of my world.
So Rob, go back to video games. True or false? You once rage quit Dark Souls within 10 minutes because you couldn't get through the first monster. Correct?
I hate that game. I'm never playing it again.
So it's true. Okay, so I got it.
It's yes, it's true.
Joe says Mario literally pronounces his own name in the game. But who do you think made the game? Like, who says Mario? If I ever called my friend Mario, he'd punch me.
Yeah, but he's not Japanese, so.
You find me one Italian guy named Mario that pronounces it Mario, and I'll start saying it that way.
The jabs. That's right, the jabs, yeah. Let's talk about body art. Anthony, do you have any tattoos? Or you're not one of those trash?
Yeah, I do. I basically got a Jerusalem cross on my back.
Okay, so
similar to it, not the exact Jerusalem cross, but something similar to it.
Okay, so is it all finished and everything?
It's really just an outline. My wife's an artist, so she's been trying to draw something that she wants me to get a full sleeve, basically. But she's lazy. She's like all women.
Sure. Rob, let me ask you a question.
That's gonna lead right into this one, I bet.
Rob, let me ask you a question here. I can see a tattoo right here in the chest, but true or false? You have an unfinished Iron Maiden tattoo on your back.
Oh, this is amazing.
Courtesy of your wife, mainly because the tattoo machine died midway, and 6 years later, you haven't revived that machine back.
This is true. Yep. She got she got the outline of the letters and the typical Iron Maiden style and was starting to color them in. And all of a sudden we smelled a little smoke and a little spark and the machine blew. So
now wait, this is at a tattoo artist or
no, this was me laying on my bed with Hope doing it.
That's why
she bought a cheap tattoo machine.
What, home tattoo machine?
Well, I mean, it was one ordered from the internet, but yes.
Oh my gosh!
It was like when Napoleon Dynamite got the crystals in the time machine. It was like that. It was very similar to it. So.
This is amazing. I didn't even know those existed. I never even knew you could get a home tattooing machine. I don't want my wife hearing that.
Let's just say
she'll be tattooing me in my sleep.
We should have went a little bit better than the $50 one on Amazon.
So bad.
Yeah. Hindsight is 2020. So, Anthony, so since you didn't play video games, I bet you seem to me like you're an outdoorsman. Like you like to, go out hiking and maybe also snowboarding, right? Because like you seem to the type of person that would be so excited to go snowboarding. You would get there, your first time out on the snowboard, boom, you break your wrist. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%. I was with Eddie's father.
Oh, okay.
So it was my first. So all right. So I was watching. Like I had skied as a young kid, and then I wanted to snowboard. So I begged Eddie's father to take me. It was on a Thanksgiving weekend. We used to go to my grandfather's house, and it was about an hour away from the mountain. And I'm like, I really want to go snow. He goes, Anthony, I'm not hanging out with you all day because his dad is passionate about skiing. So he's like, I'm not hanging out with you. You could go. I'm leaving you in the morning. At the end of the day, I'll meet you, and this is how I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it, no problem. I on the first run broke my hand, like terrible break. So now his dad feels terrible. He's like, I'm like, no, don't worry, I'll be all right. I wind up snowboarding the day with a broken hand, and it forced me to learn. And at the end of the day, he brought me back. He didn't know my hand was broken. I didn't want to tell him, because if he knew, he would have never let me stay out there. And then, we got home and my thumb was broken completely, and It was terrible. Wow. Yeah, it was a stupid move.
Give me your thoughts, both of you, whoever wants to go first. Give me your thoughts when your firstborn was born and you got a chance to hold your first baby. What was going through your head at that time?
For me, it was, wow, he's got some distance, because he just went about 3 feet right on the nurse. It was amazing.
That's incredible. That was your first thought.
Having my son was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my entire life. It was this overwhelming experience of this new consciousness being in the world. It was so overwhelming. Like I didn't think I was going to be emotional about it, but when I was shaking and weeping when we had my son. And I remember when we first brought him home from the hospital, I remember going in that room and checking every half an hour to make sure he was still breathing and he wasn't broken. Like a constant having to check. Like, and I remember his cheek feeling so soft. I remember I compared it to like if you tried to dip your lips in melted chocolate. That's how soft he was. It was one of the most overwhelming experiences I ever had. Was my little boy being born, man.
Do you want to tell everyone where you were just prior to that?
All right, so look.
Listen.
All right. My wife was due December 15th. And my company's Christmas party was in Atlantic City December 15th. So I told my wife, I'm like, no, we're having it. I told her we were going to Connecticut, because I told her Connecticut was only an hour and a half away, which it's not. It's still 3 hours away. But I'm like, we're going to Connecticut. It's only an hour and a half away. Even if you went into labor, I could get home in time. We go to Atlantic City. I put a book of Harrah's matches from the casino, Harrah's, in my pocket. I come home and I'm in the shower, and my wife comes in the bathroom and she checks my pockets and finds a book of matches from Atlantic City and loses her mind on me. And I'm like, and I just started laughing. And she was so mad at me. I was laughing so hard. And then 4 days later, she actually winds up going into, 5 days later, she goes into labor, and she was in labor for like 14 hours. I'm like, I could have went to Florida. What are you so mad about? 15-hour labor? Are you kidding me?
That's not too bad. No. So it was emotional for you, Anthony.
Yeah, having my son, definitely.
Right. Now, Rob, since having your first child, I'm sure it was emotional for you, but is having your first child as emotional as how you experience watching the movie The Choice? Because
what movie? What movie?
So, there's this movie called The Choice. I think it's 2016. It's some chick flick.
Another Nicholas Sparks, like The Notebook.
Yeah. Now I heard that Rob, you ugly cry when you watch that movie. Is the ending really that powerful?
I've only watched it once, because I won't do it again in front of Hope because of. Did we watch it twice?
I made you watch it.
Okay. Because it's a little emotional. Okay, I get a little choked up.
You want to know what's so funny about Hope? This is why I love Hope. Like, Rob's having an emotional experience crying, and she's pointing at him like, you gotta be kidding me. She's laughing that he's crying. If I cry like this, there's certain things that will make me cry with movies. It's like if you have like the father's away at war and like he comes home and sees his little girl, or something along he ugly cries. It's something along those lines, like Band of Brothers, right? When you see the old soldiers like talking about their time in the war, like something like that'll choke me up. But when my wife or my girls see me choke up, they fall apart. That like Daddy got a little emotional. Like they think it's the cutest thing in the world. Where Hope points and laughs at you is the funniest thing.
No, here's the thing. she'll be crying harder than me while I'm crying. But as soon as the crying's over, she's on her phone telling somebody what I just did.
She took pictures of you and she's posting it on Twitter. I don't think any man does an ugly cry though. Like if you're really weeping, like there's no way to not like look like an idiot when you're crying.
And here's the thing: like I have noticed, I've become a lot more prone to just being more emotional since having kids.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. Yeah. Things touch you in a different way after that.
Well, I'll say this though. You just Rob's wife is pregnant with his first girl. And as much as you think having children has softened your heart, Rob, having a girl is going to melt you in a way that you cannot possibly imagine.
I don't know what that's like.
You have all boys?
Four boys.
4 boys. Oh, I pray that you get a girl, man. It's I don't know. I can't describe it. It's almost like just you're always gonna have mama's boys and daddy's girls. And
right.
As a father, you always want your girls to feel like they're your princess. You always want to spoil them. Where your boys, you're gonna try to teach them to be tough and stuff, but you let your guard down with girls, and it's a softening that you can't know until you experience.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna have a girl. It seems like we just keep popping boys. My wife's a boy factory. Now, let's move on to faith. Rob, were you always Catholic?
Yes, I've never been anything else, but I was a very bad Catholic for a while.
Sure. Okay. What point? What was it? Your marriage, your child, or at what point did you take your faith seriously?
Having our first child.
Had to baptize.
It was probably halfway through the pregnancy. It really started to hit me. Like I said, I never believed anything else. I always believed what the church teaches. I just rationalized away like most of my 20s, right? Like I felt, well, I was in my 20s. I wasn't going to die anytime soon, so it was easier to live the way the rest of the world lives. So that's what I did.
Right.
But about halfway through that pregnancy, it's like, well, it's not, I'm going to be responsible for another human life. So that's when it hit me.
You knew the actual faith growing up, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, we, in our CCD class, we did the Baltimore Catechism.
Wow.
So it was there were some years that were iffy based on who was teaching it, but I've never heard of anyone being catechized better than I was, honestly.
Baltimore was good. Nowadays we have the cataclysm of the Catholic faith. So
the cataclysm.
Cataclysm.
The cataclysm.
Now, Anthony, what about you? You were always Catholic, right? But not same as Rob.
Always Catholic, but I wasn't catechized. So like my parents, because they were like charismatic, it was more a feelings based thing. So I told Rob, like I went to like a retreat when I was young, and like everybody around me was crying and the Holy Spirit was touching them, and I didn't have that experience. And I remember asking God, like, why is everybody around me crying? Like, I'm open to it, God, will you come? So I never had an actual knowledge of the faith. Like I didn't know there was a difference in Catholic and Protestant.
That really that far?
I thought,
wow.
Okay, so here's the things that really made me thoroughly Catholic were my parents always showed me Eucharistic miracles. So I knew you had to be Catholic. Like I knew the Eucharist was what it was. And like a lot of the, Marian apparitions and things like that, because they were charismatics. But I didn't think there was such a difference between Protestantism and Catholicism other than that. I didn't understand what the church was, none of that. So it wasn't until I was in my, I'd say 28, where I actually accidentally, I had a conversion, but it was just kind of a general conversion around like 25, 26. And that I would go to my wife's Lutheran church before she joined RCIA and stuff. Like I just didn't think there was, because her Lutheran church was so similar to a Catholic liturgy. It was in some ways they treated their Eucharist, which was really just communion, more reverently than my local Novus Ordo parish. So I didn't even know there was such a big difference there. I just thought it was like, oh, if you believe it's Jesus, you know? And it wasn't until like I stumbled on Scott Hahn in my late 20s that my mind was blown at what I wasn't taught. I felt like I had been robbed. And it felt like my birthright was taken from me. And then all of a sudden I did this deep dive. And then finding the traditional mass later on was another feeling of feeling like I had been robbed and my birthright had been taken from me. So it happened to me 2 times. And I started going to the traditional mass, I think 4 years ago at this point. Okay. So this happened at 27 and then 37.
Wow. Okay. So let me, if you don't mind, I'd just like to take a quick pause and just read something from our sponsors.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Just now, Robbie is very sleepy. I'm trying to keep him awake to spend time with me. Hope says, Robbie, you're sleeping. Don't you want to spend time with me? Rob says, no, I'm not. I'm awake. Hope, no, you're asleep. Rob, I'm talking to you. I'm awake. Hope, you're only talking to me because I'm talking to you. Rob, that's like minivan racism. 5 seconds later.
This exchange, it's a lot. It's really funny when you see it written out, right? It's like Hope is trying to keep Rob awake because she doesn't want to be alone, and Rob is like, I'm awake. I'm talking to you. I'm obviously awake. She's like, you're only talking to me because I'm awake and I'm talking to you. But that's like minivan racism. It makes 0 sense.
And friends, that was a word from our sponsor. So,
who is apparently my wife.
Minivan racism, man, because we all know minivan lives matter. Okay, so let's go back to the.
I would honestly, when you said that, I'm like, how does he have sponsors? I want sponsors. What's going on here? I'm waiting for him to read like the liturgy of the home thing or something, you know.
Oh yeah, no sponsors here. I just had to throw that in there. So let's go back to faith, if you don't mind, fellas. Tell me if there's one saint in the history of the church, not including Our Lady, Saint Joseph, John the Baptist, or any of the patristic fathers. But if there's any saint that you would love to have dinner with, to pick their brain, who would you pick?
I know right off.
Blessed Carl.
Blessed Carl. Okay. What about you, Anthony?
Padre Pio, hands down.
Saint Pio. Okay.
I have such a devotion to Pio. He's the one saint that I feel like I love him, you know. And it's not just about somebody that I read about, and it's this far off thing. I genuinely feel like a connection to him, where I really believe I'm his spiritual son. I adore Padre Pio.
Yeah, I was a huge Pio fan. I watched everything I could have. You know, Anthony, maybe one of these days you and I could do like a show on St. Pio.
Anytime, yeah.
Let's do that. We'll talk about his childhood, how he grew up, and all the way he grew up, stuff like that. I think that'd be a little fun. Anybody can join, but that'd be great. We should have a show on
the thing Pio. With Pio is what it made me realize was the reason I think that God allows our prayers to be answered through the saints' intercession is because he wants us to know our family. And he like, if we're really the communion of saints, like God really wants you to know your extended family that has gone before you. So he wants you to have these connections with the saints that have gone before. He wants you to know your family members. He doesn't want it to be just some character that you read about like a Thomas Jefferson would be for a secular person. He wants you to love this person because they are like, I don't know my family history beyond my great grandfather. I don't. So my ancestry and my roots.
Because Italy's fake.
You walked into that one, Anthony.
Italy may be fake, but Padre Pio's not. And wherever he was from, that's where I identify with. But yeah, it's like really that they are my ancestors. So I think that really that's why God does grant intercessory prayers through the saints.
That's a beautiful way to put it. I agree. Yeah. If there is one book, if you're stuck in an island there's one spiritual book, not including the scriptures, of course, one spiritual book that you could take with you to read forever just to help you grow in holiness, what book would that be? Robbie, go for it.
School of Jesus Crucified. I mean, there's so much in there about, placing yourself in the wounds of Christ,
Who's that by,
meditating
if you don't
upon
mind?
that.
Do you know?
I actually
Father
have Rob sent
Father
me a copy
Ignatius
of it.
Father Ignatius of the Side of Christ or something like that. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
I would probably read this Life of Saint Anthony.
Was it Saint Athanasius version?
Yeah, because I did that last Lent, and I mean, if I'm stuck on an abandoned, if I'm on a desert island, who better to train you how to be on that desert island than Saint Anthony of the Desert, right?
Right. Makes
that
sense.
book is transformative. It really is. And
Sure.
the other one is The Ladder of Divine Ascent. Those are two books. And then my cousin sent me this one that he swears by, and he says it's amazing. The Sinner's Guide. I haven't read it yet, though. But The Sinner's Guide is supposed to be a phenomenal book as well.
Yeah. No, I like all this. I like anything from St. Alphonsus, Preparing for Death, Uniformity with God's Will. Those would be great. So let's talk about what is your go-to genre of music growing up and now? Did it change, or is it around the same? Is it more nostalgic for you?
I grew up Metallica, Pantera, and hip hop, bro. I was a hip hop head growing up. Growing up in the 90s, it was like it was such a like they don't really have it the same way as when I was younger, when I was a kid. Like, we emulated hip hop culture when we were younger in my generation. Like, I know there's a word for that you really can't say anymore.
I was going to ask you, what is it called?
I'm not going to say the word that I want, but I definitely had my phase.
That's what they're called, minivans.
But yeah, man, I think what got me into hip hop was Eminem, first off, because I was 16 when Eminem's EP drops. Okay, now, I mean, for you guys who are a little younger, it's not. You have to understand how big of an impact Eminem's album coming out was for a 15, 16-year-old kid. It was like something you had never heard before. It blew my mind. I have friends that I grew up with that got record deals. I don't know if you ever heard of Diabolic. He wound up having a battle with Kweli, him and Kweli. So I grew up with him. He was like 2-3 towns over. So it was just It was such a cultural thing for me. And we were so about not listening to mainstream hip hop. You had to listen to underground hip hop. Had to be an underground hip hop artist. Anything by DJ Premier you could listen to. But it was just that. I mean, I still have a hard time not having that nostalgic feel for some of the rap songs that are probably horrible and I shouldn't be listening to.
Right. Yeah. Do you have like a top 3 favorite?
Pharoah Monch is my favorite MC of all time. I would say anyone in boot camp but Helter Skelter was probably my favorite rap group. Okay. And then, I mean, Eminem changed the way I viewed music.
Sure. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. What about you, Rob? What was your go-to music? Father Stan?
Growing up, it was definitely metal. Iron Maiden, Iced Earth, Blind Guardian, things like that. So I still love all of that.
Black Star, Quali, and Mos Def. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob.
But over the last few years, it's been all of that still, but also like folk, Americana, as well as classical, actually.
Okay.
Were you a country music guy?
No
country music. No, absolutely
I can't stand country music.
But like trampled by turf.
Kids screaming in the background. You gotta love it. It's a very Catholic show, guys.
That's okay. That's what we like.
No, yeah, but not so much country as it is like more bluegrass and folk.
Bluegrass is fun stuff. Yeah. So let me ask you this. I think you kind of get to know someone with this question. You're at like a classy bar. Okay. You get there. What is your go-to drink? This is the drink that Anthony always has to have when he's at an outing.
Okay,
rocket fuel for Anthony.
It's all right. So, all right, three different scenarios. All right. So if I'm out on the boat and I'm going to Fire Island, I'm getting a rocket fuel. It's just a summery drink. But if I'm going somewhere nice with my wife, like we went out to Manhattan last week, and if I'm at a nice bar that'll have it, I'm going to get an aviation martini. That's like it's a $20 drink, but it's with gin. It's my favorite drink ever. But then if I'm not getting that, if I'm just at a regular bar, I'm getting gin and seltzer with lemon.
Okay.
So
nice. What about you, Rob?
Bourbon neat.
Okay.
That's such a grown-up drink.
It is, yeah. Now, is there a specific bourbon that you like, or just any bourbon?
No. Basil Hayden is like my go-to usually. If they had it and I could spend a little more, it'd be like Blanton's.
Okay. Don, don't listen to him. He drinks Appletinis. Rob wins the drink question. Listen to me. I know Rob. Rob's trying to act a little trad for you guys. He drinks eggnog liqueur.
Because I got nailed it.
I saw that. That was hilarious.
I'm not good at the trad thing. That's the problem. So, like Rob, I smoked my first pipe with Rob in Steubenville. I had never tried a pipe before.
Tobacco. Steubenville, you never know what kind of pipe you're smoking.
Yeah,
it was tobacco.
it was tobacco pipe. But even like cigars, like I guess I would have a cigar very rarely, like really almost never. So it's almost like I don't like pretending I'm something I'm not. I'm not good at the trad, like wearing a suit and, the pipe and so Rob taught me how to smoke a tobacco pipe. I actually enjoy it. I actually been smoking it once in a blue.
Nice.
Do you ever smoke a cigar before that?
Yeah, but not regularly. Like I'm not a cigar aficionado or anything. If it's with a bunch of guys and they're having one, I'll have one. Sure. But it's nothing. I would never do it alone.
Got it. Okay. Fine. Make fun of me. Why don't you? Okay, Rob. What about you? Do you ever smoke a cigar?
Do I ever smoke cigar?
Yeah.
Not as much. I used to more when I was younger, but I'd wake up the next morning all the time, and I'd wipe my tongue across my lips, and it would just be that horrible taste. So,
cheap stuff.
So I got. Well, yeah. I was like 20, 21. I didn't buy nice cigars.
Sure.
But then I got into smoking pipes, so okay. I smoked those pretty regularly.
I did not think I would enjoy the pipe as much as I do. Like Rob got me to try it, and I really do enjoy it.
What I like about the pipe is the process. The packing, the tamping. It's so calming and meditative. Like you don't really think about anything else. You can't be worried about anything else when you're smoking a pipe, and that's what I love.
Right. Yeah. No. Pipe. Those who smoke pipe, I think there's a study in cigars actually live longer than those who don't, because it literally forces you to stop and reflect.
You have to slow down.
Slow down. Yeah. I'll smoke a cigar once a week, so that's my thing. Now, the cheap stuff, when you wake up in the morning, it feels like a cat pooped in your mouth. But when you get more of the better stuff, it's a lot better. So continuing on with faith, if you don't mind me asking, I'm going to ask two questions. Okay. First question is, if I gave you unlimited funds, if I gave you $1 billion, and I said you can put this in any ministry of the church that you think could help the totality of the church, where would you put it? Anthony, what you got?
I mean, I'm going to look and put it towards the traditional orders. We were talking about this the other day. It's like if you had me and my brother Joey were talking about it. Like, you have to be careful not to build Catholic Waco, right? Like you don't want to build Catholic Waco. They tried doing that down in Texas, and it's like the
ATF will find you.
Yeah, the couple that was doing it, they had an affair together. It's like you got to really be careful of starting a cult.
Now, to be fair to Rick Barrett, the affair wasn't. I'm just kidding. I'll go ahead.
But I just want to see the traditional movement grow, and not in a toxic form, right? Like the reason I really do appreciate you, Fawaz, is that you have a very similar outlook to Rob and I, where it's like you want to try to bring people together, and you're not necessarily going after these crazy topics. Even the news from the pew. The news from the pew. You guys are not discussing drama in the church. You guys are discussing cultural topics, and it's
right.
I feel like a lot of times when people start only diving into these issues in the church, you get somebody that disagrees with one tiny little thing, and all of a sudden everybody, I can't talk to him now because he disagrees with me on that. He does it, and I really hate the guilt by association too. Like if you're friends with somebody, now I can't talk to you because you're friends with that guy. I'm not crazy about any of that. So I would probably ask for someone's help in helping me put those funds somewhere, because I probably wouldn't pick the right place on my own.
Got it. Okay, it's very honest, and I appreciate that. Rob,
For me, I mean, I think you got to pump it into the religious orders. The cloistered religious, praying for the world, mendicant friars who literally go out preaching the gospel across the world. I mean, I think we are at the point we have to treat the West like mission territory again. And that means it's up to the religious orders.
Do you see how much better Rob's answer was than mine? Like, but this is why I love having him as a podcast partner, because sometimes I'm always going for the goofy laugh, or I'm trying to be whatever. And Rob actually he's very intelligent. He knows a lot of things that I don't know. I really do appreciate my partner.
You guys are really a perfect combination. You really are. I think that's what makes it so successful. Is that you got both of you do it really well, and I think everyone on the chat and everyone on the Boarding Babylon really enjoys it every single week because of that. So, another question. Let's say it's 2024. Old Papa Francesco had a happy death, converted in his deathbed, and he, hopefully he would be in heaven. That's what we hope for. That's what we pray for. But they picked Anthony as the next pope to lead the Catholic Church because you're a baptized male. You're qualified. What is your choice?
He's eligible. I wouldn't say qualified.
Eligible, not qualified.
That's a good distinction. What would be your first of all? What would your papal name? What would you pick? And number two, what would be the first few things that you would do to try to help the church as the Supreme Pontiff?
I think everybody says Louis, either another Louis, like a Louis the 14th, or a Pius the 13th, right?
Right.
Those are probably
We've never had a Louis Pope, but okay.
Leo, I think you're saying Leo.
Leo, I'm sorry, Leo.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. That's why Rob corrected Leo, I bet. So I would go Leo or Pius, right? And then the first thing I would do is remove every single cardinal hat. Pope Luigi. That'd be the first. Pope Mario the first. I'm dismantling the Curia. Totally dismantling it. Okay. And I'm taking Bishop Schneider and I'm saying, please, you tell me who to rebuild it with. And again, I would pass those duties on to men that I trust better than myself, because I'm very temperamental and I would probably just cause havoc everywhere.
So you're not that much different than Pope Francis. Okay.
It's the opposite side.
Just the opposite side. Because I've heard the Pope is pretty temperamental, but it probably is the Italian side. So
I know I get under people's skin quite easily. So
we would need a Pope like that. We really would in the world.
Yeah,
like that.
Look, those scenes from the HBO special that I've never watched the show, but there's a couple of clips that they show, and it's like, we have to stop worrying about what's going on out in the world. We're going to be closed off and be a little more secretive. There's something to that, and he even took on the name Pius the 13th. And he does want to put a little mystery back to the papacy, and he starts doing a couple of things like that. Now I can't tell people to watch that show because I haven't actually seen it. I've seen clips.
It's not
of it.
Great, yeah.
No,
I don't recommend it. Rob, what
Pope Rob?
Yeah, Pope Rob. What would you pick? What would be your name?
I think Athanasius.
Oh,
I think I would go with Pope Athanasius. And then I guess I would do three things. One, like Anthony, would be to tear down the Curia, rebuild it from scratch. Two would be to completely burn the Jesuits to the ground and restart that. Because the Jesuits, when they're good, are amazing, right? I mean,
Great.
they almost undid the Protestant Reformation before they were suppressed the first time around. And then the third thing would be to call a council.
You call it Third Vatican Council.
Oh, it wouldn't be the Vatican.
It wouldn't be at the
Nothing.
Vatican.
Nothing good happens in the Vatican.
Where would you have the council? Minnesota?
No, no, not Minnesota. I don't know where it would be.
Okay.
God willing, Constantinople.
Okay. So at the council, would you kind of take Vatican II's documents and kind of tweak them and correct what needs to be corrected, or would you do away with them and come up with new documents?
I think doing away, this is going to be controversial for the trads out there.
Sure.
I think doing away with them probably would cause more long-term problems. I mean, anytime you nullify a council like that,
I agree.
Bad things come from it, usually far later on. But so I think you would the council would need to clarify both Vatican I and Vatican II, because Vatican I wasn't finished because of the Franco-Prussian War. So that's what caused a lot of the problems of Vatican II. So you'd have to clarify both.
Okay, I like that. Clarify the documents rather than do away with them. Okay.
I would say something. I would say that, and what would you do with the liturgy, Rob?
That's a good question.
I mean, the Novus Ordo would probably be abrogated, and there would have to be, if the council felt a need for a liturgy besides the TLM, then there would be another. I don't know. But Novus Ordo gone.
I think I would get rid of the Novus Ordo Missae totally, but I would allow I would even, whatever, we could argue over 62, 55, whatever like that, but I would allow it in the vernacular for at least a period of time to allow people. I think
what would maybe be good, and I don't know how you would do it for the rest of the world, but in America and the English-speaking world, I would open up the ordinariate mass to every priest who wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. I'm sorry for
like
Fawaz. I didn't mean to jump in and take over the show.
No.
Doing
don't apologize. This is great. Yeah, that was a good question. It was a good question. So now, one last question, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
And then, so I know there's always this, this rift between TLM and Novus Ordo. Now, my problem with some of the Novus Ordo folks is a lot of times when the Motu Proprio came out, a lot of them were saying, because we have a lot of dissenters within the trad community, and to some degree that there are some dissenters. Now, my pushback to the Novus Ordo folks is, if you would spend more time actually transforming some of these parishes that you're in from clown masses to actual reverent Novus Ordo masses, you would grow, number one. And number two, why are you so concerned about what's going on in the TLM and the communities when your own backyard is a complete mess? So if you are in, for example, at a council, now I'm not talking about the TLM here, I'm talking about Novus Ordo specifically. If you're part of a TLM council where the priest says, hey, let's just scratch everything we do here, we've guitar masses and all that stuff, what advice would you give the priest to kind of transform that Novus Ordo parish to make it more, I guess you would say, like Sacrosanctum Concilium like?
So I attend the Novus Ordo probably 80 to 90% of the time, just due to lack of TLM availability. Sure. And the parish, before the priest was moved last year, the parish we had gone to, he was in the process of changing the mass at that parish, and he started. First, he put in an altar rail. He redid the whole altar, made it much more beautiful. Put up the statues of Mary and Joseph, kind of as side altars. Put in an altar rail. He started saying it ad orientem once a month.
Wow.
And then during Advent, he moved to doing it every week. And then he kept that going forever. He encouraged the use of the altar rail. And at the very beginning, it went from maybe 10% receiving in the, or 10% receiving on the tongue, but still standing, to by the time he was moved, having 90% kneeling, receiving on the tongue. So the way he did it and the way he slowly morphed it seemed to work perfectly.
That's beautiful. We have a priest here in Kentucky that did that in Nova Sordo Parish. It's about an hour away, but I still go to the TLM. What about you, Anthony?
The Nova Sordos in my diocese are pretty messy. Like they really are really messy. And there's the traditional mass I go to is at a diocesan. It's a diocesan parish, and the only time I've actually ever seen a traditional Nova Sordo is at that parish at St. Rocco's. And just switching it to ad orientem and having communion on the tongue does wonders for the Nova Sordo. Like those two things really changes so much that if you could really just get those two things in order, I think you would stop hearing the TLM is so much more reverent, even though it still would be so much more reverent. Those two, the communion on the hand thing is just an open source of sacrilege. I mean, I've seen so many hosts hit the floor in my years that it's shocking how little people think anything of it when it happens.
Right.
So
so at Orientem, it's a huge change. That was the biggest change for me when I first went to the TLM. In 2016 was my first time going to TLM, so I've been there for about 8 years.
Were you
6 years.
You were a regular Nova Sordo Catholic before that, though?
It was Eastern Rite most of the time. And then we moved up to northern San Diego, where I couldn't drive down to the south to go to the Eastern Rite. So I ended up going to my local parish. I ended up staying there for a long time, and I became a director of youth ministry there for about 10 years. But so this was from like 2012 to 2010, 2020. But in 2016, I ended up going to the TLM every single week. I'd still work there. I'd still run youth ministry, but I wouldn't go there on Sunday for Mass because I did the TLM. It was really ad orientem for me. Once I experienced ad orientem, for me, that was it. That was the most attractive thing to me.
It literally changes your whole perspective.
Right. So the first time I saw an ad orientem Mass was I went on a Cursillo retreat.
Oh,
and the priest that gave the Cursillo retreat explained it where I never even knew it before. Like this is way back in the day. It was right in my late 20s, and he said, "Look, the Mass. I'm going to turn this Mass around. You know why? I'm a leader, and I'm leading my men into battle." And it was like he looked at himself like he was the general leading his men into battle. And we're all facing the same way because we're all facing toward the same, direction when we're going into it. And the way he just explained that to me, it just actually made me angry that why isn't every Nova Sordo turned that way? Like it didn't make sense to me. And then learning that, like even before I'd ever went to a traditional Mass, like the idea that Latin, every Mass is in Latin, is so easy to just realize. Like if you're in France and you go to the Mass, it's in Latin. If you're in Germany, it's in Latin. And the church has a universal language that no matter where you go, you understand what's going on at the Mass because the church has its own language that's a dead language that nobody else can twist and change. And it just always made so much sense to me before I had even been to a traditional Mass.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. So once he said that, I think something clicked. You understood.
Yeah, I was like, why would they not always do it that way and explain it that way too? And say, look, my back isn't to you. Like we're all praying to God, and I'm the general leading the troops in.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. Anything you guys want to plug in? We don't have much of an audience. I don't have much as you guys, but I can definitely. I put that in the community and get the circulating so we can get people to watch this as much as possible. But you guys need to plug in?
Rob, all right. Rob, you're good at the plugs, and then I want to say something after.
Let's see. Tomorrow on Integrated with Angela, I almost did the other name. On Integrated with Angela Erickson, Anthony and I, as well as Jason and Mark from Tradman Podcast, and Connor McHugh from Plotlines, are going to be on her channel, just doing like a Friendsgiving sort of just episode
hang.
where we just hang and talk. And then November 30th, we're having Eric Salmons on our channel to do an Advent, a show on Advent. What else, Anthony?
And then to talk, Eric has a book about the Jesse tree we want everybody to check out. And then we have 2 trivia episodes planned. December 7th, which we're doing it the 7th, a Wednesday that week, because the 8th is obviously the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. We didn't want to make anybody miss Mass to see our stupid show. So we're going to do 2 trivia episodes in a row where we want to do Cradle Catholics versus Converts, Bible trivia only. So I want to get a team of 3 versus 3, and we're going to do it a little bit differently than we usually do. Then the other thing I just want to say is just sitting here and talking like normal guys and like asking, like I love this format, what you're doing, man. I've watched every episode since you did it. I can't tell you how appreciative I am that like we reached out to you and you right away were so generous with your time with us. You didn't know us from a hole in the wall, and I was just like, hey man, will you come on the show with us? And we always clicked right away. We have very like similar senses of humor. Like I really do appreciate everything you're doing right now, Fawaz, and I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you. You guys, yeah, I'm a huge fan of you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for promoting the album and everything. I just want to get the music out there to the people. As far as we're talking about this. No, I mean, but yeah, it's really great to have a community like this, because I think sometimes there's a certain corner of Twitter that can be a bit intimidating for Catholics. I think you guys definitely have a bright spot of it, and it makes it worth staying and hanging out. So
yeah, we try to make everything fun, man. Like not everything has to be an argument over somebody making a mistake, and like everybody wants to excommunicate people. It's like just chill out, man. Like people make mistakes. Like a lot of us are new to the traditional thing, right? So it's like you got to give people a little leeway to learn some stuff, and we're gonna get into that when we do the Advent show with Eric, because there's a lot of things that I liked about Advent, the way I celebrated it before I became a traditional Catholic, that I still keep some of those things, and I just enhanced it with a more traditional view of things, So we made some amazing friends doing this podcast, though.
For a church whose name literally means universal, we sure do like to gatekeep a lot.
Yeah.
And I love how shows like this that you're doing really break that down. So
appreciate it. Yeah, the only reason I started this show was because I thought to myself, I'm like, everybody knows the work. Like, people know Lofton's work, people know Gordon's work, Sam's work, you guys' work. But there's not a lot of personality that comes out of it, because you guys are so. I mean, I think everyone is so like. Well, I want to stick to the message that I'm giving, not so much about me. But I'm like, there's so many great things that you can learn just from somebody's, and just laugh, just from somebody's history and past. And I think a lot of people, we all grew up in the '90s. Most of us did. This is the generation so a lot of people will relate to.
You got to look at it like the Scott Hahns and all those guys are getting older, right? Like those guys are moving on. Like there has to be a new crop of guys to bring the younger generation on. We're still at that age where, like, I mean, if you look at the analytics of our channel, it's a lot of like 18 to 35-year-olds checking our channel out. So
right.
Like
and then Don on the other end.
But they do need a new crop of guys to teach them the thing, and you don't want to teach them toxic Catholicism. You want to teach them that it's about learning the faith, yes, and also building a community, and not just being that toxic.
Correct.
The toxicity's got to come down a level, man, and that a lot of times that means ignoring something somebody said if you like the person. I mean, you're not going to agree with everything somebody says. So when you see something from somebody that you generally like that you don't agree with, let the comment go. Don't comment on it. I mean, I make that mistake a lot too.
Sure. That's good advice. I just want to touch on this. Brick, I will actually be in Detroit from Wednesday to Sunday. So if you have a wing place that you can recommend, let me know, because wings are my favorite food. So. Favorite food. Come on, guys. Sorry, I missed that. Favorite food. Rob, what's your favorite food?
I'm pretty stereotypical, so.
Russian, actually.
I'll tell you what the hardest thing to give up during Lent is for me. It's pizza, bro.
Pizza.
Giving up pizza during Lent kills me.
He loves Domino's.
Yeah. Pizza Hut.
Funny thing, we had a because we have a men's group here at the church local. Your cousin's part of it.
Yeah.
Your cousin has made the parish community much better. Everyone loves your cousin. Great guy, great family. And so what we do is we fast. We have rigorous fast once a month with just bread and water one time a day, and then we go to mass together, and then we pray a litany to souls of purgatory. Do a little chaplet for them, and then we break the fast by all going out. The first night we went out for pizza, and your cousin was funny. he's like we went to this pizza place in Danville, which is a little small town in Kentucky. He used to say New York pizza. I walk in there, I get all excited, and he was like, I take a taste. And I was like, this ain't New York pizza. I like it.
Dude, ask Eddie when you see him about the time I grabbed his slice of pizza.
Oh, really?
Me and him, he used to work with me, and we had a fight one time, and I got so mad at him. He was going, huh?
Nothing.
Oh, he goes to take a bite of his pizza, and I'm so mad at him. I grabbed the slice of pizza and squeezed it in my hand. I was so mad at him. He'll tell you the story. About it.
Yeah. Well, God bless, guys. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having us, man. This is so much fun.
Yeah. It was great.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and then I think I got Margot on the 12th, on December 12th. So
Margot's great.
Yeah, that'll be fun. You guys will get to know Margot, and if there's anybody that you know that can give me some dirt on Margot, send them my way.
We got Jake. Put him in touch with Jake. Jake's got
all right. Let's
stuff,
do this. All right. God bless everybody. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you, brother.